One last thing about the solar eclipse and this Virgo Libra combination. The making this even more powerful is the fact that Mercury will be in very close proximity to both the sun and the moon during the eclipse. And arguably, there is no planet that is more powerful in a sign than Mercury in Virgo. It's the Lord of Virgo. It's Ucha, which is the English is exalted, and is multricon. So in English, that means that it's basically the king of Virgo. It rules Virgo. It's comfortable in Virgo. It does its best work there. That's multricon. And the exaltation, the ucha, means that the most sort of obvious spectrum of Mercury energy is at its height. So data analysis, business dealings, any kind of where you're basically doing day-to-day activities of routines and that sort of thing. Well, this is all going to get shaken up, and you're going to get new routines and new day-to-day activities and all kinds of other stuff going into the next cycle, because what happens on the flip side of the solar eclipse is the lunar eclipse that will give quite, I think, a dynamic climax to all of this, because solar eclipses tend to have their energy protracted out over time, and the revelations from that event or the events around it kind of echo out, whereas a lunar eclipse will give you a bit of payoff quite soon after. So this in particular will definitely do so. The lunar eclipse is happening in Ashwini nakshatra in Aries. So Moon and Rahu, the North Node, in Ashwini. Ashwini is known for rapid results, rapid healing specifically. So those who are looking for any kind of health-related opportunities, this is the time that those will be very much revealed. And especially once Saturn goes direct in early November, which happens in the first week of November, everyone has been dealing with health-wise, and our health in general will suddenly have new courses of opportunity to for us to avail ourselves to. And the opposite nakshatra, where the sun will be, as well as Mars and Mercury, is Svati. And Svati is, despite it being in Libra, which is, of course, the zodiac sign of the conjoining of arrangements between people, Svati is about the individual. And it's the classic balance within imbalance that Libra has to find. You need the best of both, best for both parties to realize their true individuality. For everyone to be equally served, both parties must realize their own uniqueness, and that's almost impossible to do. And that's why when you have an eclipse happening in these very intense, dynamic nakshatras like Ashwini and Svati, you're going to have a very explosive these words just come to me, I don't know, denouement, reveal to everything that's been going on. And I am optimistic. For my part, I have always seen this as the roller coaster ride to a new beginning for us as individuals, to explore our own opportunities. Because let's face it, the world is shaking up. You don't need an astrologer to tell you which way the wind blows. People are having to find new directions, rebuild their lives from the chaos that has ensued over the past few years globally. And in a lot of ways, we haven't been able to talk about these things because our society has been still accustomed to that old paradigm where you still expect people to go to 9-to-5 jobs, and everybody's you have to go back to work and you have to do this. And I'm all for that. I think you should. But it's like, what if work becomes a completely different thing in the next few years? What if currency becomes a completely different thing in the next few years? And I think that's actually where we might be specifically headed. That will kind of make people have to realize these upsetting truths that the old ways can't hang around anymore, and you have to make way for a new beginning. So Ah, yes. I'm gonna keep that because this is like how my mind works. Usually people edit stuff like that out, but I knew there was one more thing, and that thing is again separate from Vedic astrology, just the tangent that I kind of go on because I have a research mind. Um, Edgar Cayce, who is famous for his medical predictions, sorry, his ability to diagnose people remotely just through psychic visions. He believed that the star that would be the exit out of this realm. This is what I've heard. I haven't actually heard Edgar Cayce say it, but nevertheless, man, it's a cool thing if it is true. It's Arcturus, and Arcturus is Svati. So again, this is about getting that breakthrough, pushing that last inch that feels like the mile that you just climbed, and over the peak of the freaking mountain is Xanadu, Shambhala, whatever. All right, moving on. Doing real time research and confirming that yes, Edgar Cayce did highlight Arcturus as a gateway for the soul to come in and out. He had a lot to say about Arcturus, it turns out, and I'm going to link a little YouTube video I found that's kind of some highlights. So one last thing about the eclipse: Venus, which rules Libra, will be in Parivatana, meaning exchanging rulerships with the Sun, which will be debilitated. I'll have a little bit more to say about that. In Libra, and Venus bringing this, it's pretty much a good thing, is what I'm trying to say. But it's making this whole thing even stronger because of the lordship involved with Venus. So last but not least, what follows the eclipse is 3 days after, on none other than October 31st, Halloween. The nodes move. So we're going to have Rahu move from Aries into Pisces, and Ketu move from Libra into Virgo. And of course, Venus a few days later will conjunct Ketu, and that'll be a whole other thing. But the bottom line is, like, when you have two eclipses and then 3 days after the nodes shift, majorly extraordinary energy churning in the cosmos, and we're going to have equally major release in November, and it will definitely crescendo into the next eclipse cycle going into 2024, and we'll see what happens from there. But for those who have stayed with me through this drop, we're going to do a little third pyramid stuff. This is kind of, again, it's astrology, but it's astronomy, and that's why, I'm going to recommend somebody at the end who I found if you need a new sauce for astrology. But yeah, the predictions and stuff like that, I could never really get the momentum to be honest going with that. I like doing it, and but it's not where my passions are kind of all over the place. So I'm a bit multifarious, so it's hard to stick to one specific thing. So yeah, I'm just going to expand out some content of the channel when I even get a chance to do it, because the schedule is crazy these days, but I'm always making those excuses. I still love doing this content, and I'm really appreciative of any eyes that get on it, and we're all on this journey together. So blessings and namaste, man. All right, let's get into the third pyramid stuff. So this is courtesy of my favorite guys, the Pi team, Dr. Arjun Pai, who is, for those who know KRS through Vedic astrology, is affiliated with them. Togi, Aditya Togi, Dr. Togi, came up with this research where I think he found from a journal in the 1950s. They had published it's called a lunar occultation. So this term occult which has been, throughout my lifetime bandied about to mean everything from like satanic to witchcraft to whatever, doesn't mean any of those things actually. It just means secret or hide, to hide. And an occultation is an astronomical term for when one celestial object obscures another. So there you have it. It's, again, the English language being tripped up to be the spell book that it is. The word occult just simply means that which is hidden. So it's to ward off you from like wanting to know secrets and stuff, to stay in the first pyramid. So the occultations are pretty phenomenal. What happens is, as I've talked about, the nakshatras or constellations, there are 27 within the 12 zodiac signs. So what will happen is the moon will come into basically in front of one of these constellations, and there are 5 of the 27 that sort of experience this phenomenon of occultation. This is the first eclipse cycle where it's happening. So it started in September. Kritika, which is Alcyon in the kind of Greek or whatever the traditional astronomical speak, in Taurus, and also it actually is a constellation that cusps between Aries and Taurus. But this is where the moon becomes Ucha, exalted, in Taurus. So this Alcyon is going to become occulted. So every time the moon moves in front of Alcyon, it will completely obscure Alcyon. So this is simultaneously happening to another star, to another constellation directly opposite in Scorpio, and this is Antares, which is in the Greek, and in Sanskrit is Jyesta. So Jyesta and Kritika are both for the next 5 years being occulted. Every time the moon comes around, you're going to have a star you can't see. So I thought this was apropos because that's what the eclipses are. Supposedly the moon has this magical ability to occult constellations that are billions of light years or whatever away, and the sun, which is just right there, it's just like perfectly rounded in that way. There's so much happening. I didn't even get into the lunar wave stuff. It's like that's a whole other drop. I'll have to get into that later. But this is fascinating because this sheds a lot of light. Basically, I said I was going to talk about the debilitation exaltation thing earlier. So this sheds a lot of light on maybe why we have this concept of the debilitation exaltation. What's happening right now is where the moon gets Nietzsche and Ucha, exalted and debilitated, there's a simultaneous occultation. So Jyesta is where the moon is debilitated. Well, Scorpio. It's actually the points where it's debilitated are much earlier in Scorpio in Vishaka. But that's neither here nor there. The point is that these two that are in the same zodiac sign, or the zodiac sign where the moon is Ucha and Nietzsche, these two stars are simultaneously experiencing this phenomenon. Now, the story is sort of interesting because the moon, jump in with a quick post-production editorial correction. I say in a couple of different places, I'm talking about Rohini and Kritika, and I was trying to do the Greek and everything and keep them straight, and I misspoke a little bit. So Kritika is where the moon is exalted, or Ucha, and the moon. So it's Rohini that the moon fell in love with. That's the furthest thing away, and this is what caused the curse, not Kritika. Kritika is the exaltation of the nakshatra of the moon, and the reason why it's meant to wax and wane, where we don't see the full, we get the shadow, is because the other nakshatras or the other constellations were jealous because the moon chose. So they basically cursed the moon to go through this dark experience of itself for fixating on this one place. This is actually kind of interesting because where all this happens, and Rohini is another. So there are two stars that actually become occulted. It's not happening right now. But Rohini also becomes occulted in Taurus. So we have two constellations in Taurus. And this happens to be the most distant point from the Earth's ecliptic. And, this idea that distance makes the heart grow fonder, this is literally like the moon is like yearning for the furthest thing away from itself. Like all these like beautiful concepts are embedded in astronomy. It's not even astrology. It blows my mind. So I thought this was pretty special to be having these occultations happening simultaneous to the beginning of these. They begin simultaneous to these eclipses and happen for the next 5 years. So, like David Bowie, had the song 5 Years, I think for a reason. Go check that track out, man. And then the other thing I'll say to wrap up is kind of a tease of what I kind of want to explore a bit in the channel is for those Star Wars buffs out there, the planet that they destroy in Star Wars, which is Leia's home planet, is called Alderaan. Now, Rohini, which is one of these stars that gets occulted, is called Aldebaran. So this is also like, Krishna's nakshatra, and if you look at like Luke and Leia, they're definitely like these elements, especially of I think the Critica story. Anyhow, I'm going off on a tangent. It's occulted. So the 5 stars, let me just go through them for the record, because I'm gonna flash things up that'll help this narrative a little bit. The 5 stars that I mentioned already are in the Greek Antares, Alcyon, Aldebaran. I almost said Alderaan, Spica, and Regulus. So these are Magha, Chitra, Rohini, Critica, and Jayasta. The astrologer, I'm going to recommend, I'm just going to flash her screen up because I don't want to massacre her name, but fire content. She covers all the areas that I'm into. So yeah, she speaks truth to power. She's dope. Anyway, check her out. Have a blessed Friday the 13th, October the 31st, and all points in between. May the shifts move you in all kinds of soulful ways so that your soul can grow.